Welcome to another couch confession with Dan and Sam.
First off, we're on chairs. And
Chair.
this is not even a confession.
I just feel like, or chair
Forgive
chat.
me, Father, for I have sinned.
Chair chats. That's what this series could be called.
Chair chat.
This is our third episode in these chairs.
I mean, I feel like no matter what, you gotta be sitting on something.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying as a whole. Anyways, today we want to talk about marriage. A couple months ago, I put on Instagram stories, put it out there that you and I got into like an argument. I don't remember what it was now about. Do you remember? It was something about you went to the church.
Almost always small.
It was probably some dumb thing. But we got into an argument, and the way that we walked through it, I shared it online and just said, hey, you may think that like life is perfect over here, but we walked through this. This is how this happened. This is how we walked through it. And hopefully it can encourage you. And so many people were my messages like, we're on day 3 of not talking. Like, thank you so much for this. Or, oh my gosh, this was a great perspective.
3 days of not talking?
Yeah. I don't know how, like, maybe they talk like just the necessary things, but not anything like more than that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's wild.
I will listen and not judge because I don't know what happened in the situation.
No, but it just sounds miserable. Like, I hate that
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And just like as a whole, I feel like marriages like are under attack with just different temptations. I don't know, in so many areas.
Yeah.
And we've been married now 11 years. It's crazy.
That is
It's exciting.
crazy.
And we are not perfect. We do not know everything. But I feel like we've learned so much in our few short years. Also, like Dan and I both come from divorced parents, divorced marriages, that we have a different perspective now in our own marriage. My mom and dad, when I was young, yours when you were older, and so I feel like we have both sides of things that
We got to take a lot in and then decide how we want to do it based off of what we knew from other relationships.
Yes, and moving forward. And we had so much great wisdom poured into our life before we got married and at the beginning of our marriage with several couples that are still fully committed in their marriage today and whose marriages we look up to and respect, having them pour into our life. And just want to share a little bit of, I guess, insight or experience that maybe it would be helpful. Was this before we were engaged, when we went to the engaged married couples class? Or were we dating or were we engaged?
I think we were engaged at that point.
I think we were like
I don't
freshly
remember.
engaged.
Yeah.
There was an engaged married couples class at our church. It was like 8 weeks, and we're like, let's do this. Not knowing like fully what it entailed, and felt like going into it we had zero like knowledge of anything marriage related. I mean, given because we were just got engaged, but we still approach things and conversations based off of what we learned at that point. They went through a series called iMarriage by Andy Stanley, and I think he still has it on YouTube. Very old curriculum or teaching, but very good like foundation and principles.
Yeah.
That one thing he addressed is there's 2 different things. He talked about your expectations and how missed expectations is a big thing in marriage, and what causes marital problems is Dan expected me to do a certain thing or to respond a certain way and I didn't, so therefore he's upset. Well, he didn't communicate to me how he wanted me to respond or how he was feeling or whatever, so then therefore I didn't do what he desired. Or same for you, like I expected you to get me something or do something for me or say something, respond to me a certain way, and you didn't. Now I'm upset because of the way you did it, but I never communicated to you, hey, tonight's Friday and it would really mean a lot to me if you planned out date night.
Yeah.
Like, you can't assume things, and that missed expectation causes
Well, and the missed
arguments.
expectation a lot of times is just a lack of communication about it.
Yeah.
Because as much as it would be great if we could read each other's minds, we cannot.
And Dan has
And
very little memory.
I have a really good memory. I think maybe the communication might not always make it
That's true. I mean, I agree with that. I'm bad at communicating sometimes.
But there's times where, like, for me, I think, why would we put dishes in the sink covered in food?
Yeah.
Scrape the food off in the trash, rinse the dish off, and if the dishwasher's full, just leave it sitting there, but it's already rinsed off.
In theory, that's great.
And for me, that is like my least favorite thing is soggy food in the sink. And for her, it's just like, pan of meatloaf, just leave it.
Well, because I'll get to it later, and I'm busy and I have something to do right away that I just do in there. Or children, they just put their bowl of cereal in there, and you can't really teach them, okay, strain your milk out, then put the cereal in the trash, and then like put the bowl, like they don't.
Well, but my biggest thing was like, hey, I don't mind helping with the dishes, but there's an expectation of how the dishes should be in the sink.
Yes.
Because the whole like reaching your hand into liquid full of soggy food,
bread and cereal,
not gonna happen. So I literally told her at one point, I said, I will help with this, but if they ever get this bad, I will not do it. So it's like there's got to be a little bit of effort here when we put them in. And then on the other side, when you take Ember to cheer on Monday nights, you expect when you come home that there will be food ready. Yeah. And that the house is a little bit nicer.
Maybe that's is that what we got upset about?
That was
probably
very heated. Like you were not happy at all.
I came home.
She came home and she was like, I'm just gonna recap the whole fight for everybody. How about that? Okay. She came home and she walked in, and as soon as she walked through the door and looked around, she was upset. And I'm like, oh great. Like, what have I done now? And she's like, what have you been doing since I left? And I'm like, well, Canny and I wrestled because, like, that's their favorite thing.
To wrestle.
They love to wrestle. That is their favorite quality time with me.
It's like their love language is wrestling.
100%. And so I was like, we wrestled. We cleaned up a little bit downstairs. We played a game, and then I did a couple things up here. Whatever it was like, hey, there's several things that I did, but none of them were having food ready for her and Ember. Yeah. And so none of that mattered. And you got real snippy with me, and we're like, that's just called being an adult. Congratulations, you're an adult.
I'm like, what did you do? I'm like, that's called being a dad. You did the bare minimum.
Yeah, well, because like immediately I got defensive. She's like, what have you been doing since I left? And I'm like, this and this and this and this and this. And she's like, congratulations, that's called being a dad. I'm like, you didn't walk in the room and I'm like, hey babe, look what I did. I just answered the question of, what have you been doing? Yeah. And so that was our fight. Like, something so dumb. It was the difference of 4 minutes. Like, I then made dinner and had it ready in 4 minutes. So, like, it wasn't like you were waiting 2 hours to eat, or that Ember was, but it was just a missed expectation.
Yeah, I did not clearly communicate that, hey, I've had a long, stressful day with work, and now I have to leave the house a mess to go take my daughter to cheer, and I'm starving, and when I get back, I'd really love dinner to be made. Yeah. Like, that took,
and it's honestly like 70-30. 70% of the time, you grab dinner on the way home. Yeah. For you guys and for us.
Traffic was awful, and I was like, no.
So it's like all of those things play into it. In my mind, I'm like, she might call as soon as she leaves and be like, hey, what do you want to eat? We're going to stop. Yeah. And so in my mind, it just wasn't a thing.
Yeah. But now, when I'm at cheer, in the middle of cheer practice, I'll get a text, hey babe, what would you like for dinner? Yep. And I come home and dinner's ready, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah, so like just a little bit of communication. Yeah. And I feel like that's where a lot of fights happen. Mm-hmm. It's
a lack of communication.
It's a lack of communication that leads to missed expectations. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but along those lines, I shouldn't say not only that. I just feel like people need to know how to fight well.
Yes. And
not fight dirty.
Yeah.
And not
that was the other thing that with Andy Stanley that we took with us after all these years was when something happens and you have a disagreement or argument, you're supposed to say, like, if I got upset at you or whatever, I can say, hey babe, because you did this, it made me feel this way. And he's not supposed to be like, well, you did this, well, you didn't communicate, well, you didn't tell me. He's just supposed to say,
I understand.
thank you for telling me.
Or thank you for telling me.
I will work on it.
Yeah. So, I will say that is my least favorite
It's your least favorite thing, but
thing.
it works because in the moment you're heated and it's not worth it to have the conversation. So you need to step back, process it, think about it, because generally you'll be like, yeah, hey babe, I'm really sorry I didn't do that. You mentioned it and I just forgot type of thing. Or if I can be like, hey, I'm sorry I came across too strong. I just all guns blazing. I apologize I didn't communicate to you. This is why I got upset. I would like food ready. And then you can be like, oh yeah, totally makes sense. Next time communicate to me and I'll have it ready. Like,
but
and when your emotions aren't raised.
The problem that I have with that point, and I've had a problem with that point of his basically ever since I heard it.
You didn't tell me this.
Because in each relationship, there's always one person who is louder or is going to voice their issues more than the other one. And so then it just feels like I just have to sit here and take it all the time.
Yeah.
Because for me, I can deal with things without bringing them up to you.
Yeah.
I can get upset about something and be like, it's not that big of a deal, and I can just work through it in my head. And so then all of those things might still be there somewhere. But then when you get upset and you're like, hey babe, and you tell me this, now I'm like, well, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I could have said, but I didn't. Now I want to, and I can't.
Yeah. No, that
you know
makes
what I mean?
sense.
And
I
so,
think the biggest thing of when you say, thank you for telling me I'll work on it, is just, if I came against you and saying something, I'm invalidating your feelings of, like, your feelings are valid to an extent. Ladies, we don't want to get crazy because generally we do get more heightened emotions and feelings, that I don't want to feel like you aren't listening or don't hear me, because then it creates something in me where it's like, well, I'm not going to talk to him anymore, or I don't want to tell him about how I'm feeling because he's not going to listen to me anyways, which is hard, and that's not a good place to be in marriage. Like, you want to feel like you can fully communicate and share your heart and share your feelings with your spouse.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably like the main point of it, is not to just sit there and take it and me saying it. And that's the same thing with me. I'm not supposed to just rail on you. I'm supposed to say one simple sentence: because you did this, it made me feel this. That's it. Don't go on and just like harp on him of like why he's doing it.
You
say
can both walk away and think about it, and then come back when things are a little bit more chilled out.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you can have just a normal conversation about how you feel with stuff. And I would say the same thing with you sharing emotions, or like any couple. If one of you is sharing emotions, her emotions might be way out of whack. And I'm not saying that because like they are all the time, but you might be very, very upset.
Something always causes my emotions to get heightened, whether it's work or whether it's the kids or something stressful or health or what.
But like even overthinking because you're a people pleaser, and like if you upset, in your mind, they're really upset and let down and disappointed by something you did or said or didn't do.
I get really worked up.
And you get so worked up. In the moment, I really want to be like, that's not it, babe.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You shouldn't, like, it's not that big of a deal. You're overthinking it. That doesn't help at all. Like, that's not going to change. Even though it's right.
It makes sense.
Like, they're not, she is thinking way more about it than they are. And it makes sense. In that moment, it's not going to help for me to be right.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if I'm right in that moment. But what I can do is be there and listen and help you walk through it however that looks. And then later on, talk about it logically.
Yeah. I think one time I remember telling you, I was talking to you about something. This happened just a couple weeks ago. I was talking to you about something and you immediately gave me a response, and I literally said, in this moment, I don't want your response. I just want a listening ear. I just want someone to talk to. And you were like, okay. And you apologized after. You're like, I'm really sorry, like, that I tried to fix something. I wasn't looking for someone to fix. I just wanted to talk to you and just like vent for a second as my husband.
Yeah.
That I want that safe space. And even in my like being worried about what other people are thinking or saying, or like how they're reacting, like that, yes, you know now that in that moment you're just like, oh babe, I'm really sorry. Like, you empathize with me. I'm really sorry you're feeling that way. I'm really sorry that happened. Like, let me know if you need anything, rather than being like, it doesn't matter, don't worry about it, you'll get over it.
No.
That does not, that like makes me so mad.
No, I think what it is for me, it's like my way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
It's like, this is so much, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I don't want to deal with this. So, like, maybe if I tell her that,
Yeah.
she'll be like, oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's not, like, I have learned over 11 years of marriage and however many years of dating, logic and emotion do not mix at all. There is no place for both of them in a conversation.
One or the other.
Like, if emotions are high, logic needs to just stay out of it for a little bit. There's a certain level at which the emotions come down to where now logic and emotion get along.
Yeah.
But like when emotions are high, logic is just, it makes everything worse. And I had to realize that, or I had to learn that the hard way from trying to help. And it's like, no, babe, that's not how it is. And
Yeah,
it's like,
sometimes I'm just like, just don't touch me, don't talk to me, like I just need some space. Like,
and sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you're like, can you please just hug me?
yeah, like, can I just have a hug?
And I'm like, but last time you said don't touch me and leave me alone. Like, I don't know. And so,
more confusing.
So the communication side of it though, it's like, I will do whatever as long as you tell me.
Yeah.
Like, I just need to know
and
what
on
you
our
want.
end, we don't want to tell you, we just want you to do it. So it doesn't make a good recipe for
No,
like,
it doesn't. And that's where
happy.
the communication just has to be there because you're going to learn things and there are going to be things that I naturally pick up on without her having to tell me. But I'm not going to catch everything.
Yeah.
And so the things that I don't catch just need to be communicated.
Yeah.
And the same thing with you. I was red hot in the garage the other night. And I didn't tell you this. I was putting the trash, we've got a trash can right outside of our door that's in the garage. And we put
I put the trash there,
well,
he takes it out.
Well, we put the trash bags there. Sam will randomly fill an empty cardboard box with loose trash, which now means that I have to dump that into a trash can, and then it spills all over the garage floor,
Oh, babe.
and then I have to bag that up, cut the box down so that that can go in our recycling bin. And so the other night you had just instead, it's like,
was this when I
it's
filed
like we were on
papers?
it's like we were on a trash bag shortage. Like they were just nowhere to be found. It was like, it was toilet paper and COVID, but for trash bags. And there were multiple boxes of just loose trash.
I'm sorry.
And I was like, what in the world? And I was just out there literally throwing boxes around after I like empty them out and then throw them. And I'm like, why would anybody do this? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But in a rush, a bunch of parties, Super Bowl party, we had another party that week.
Yeah.
Like, we had people over, and it was just like, the trash bag
Throw it in
was
something.
getting filled up super quick. You just throw it all in a box from the dining room table and then set it out. And so it's like, I understand. And for me, it happened one time.
Yeah.
And I was able to work it out there
own.
that like, well, I was able to work it out that like, this isn't an ongoing thing. This isn't an issue. This isn't something that I asked her not to do and she just keeps doing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't need to bring it up.
Aww.
If I see it again,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey babe, trash bags are for trash. Boxes are not for trash. Like, then we can go through it. But in that moment, I could have burst through the door.
Oh, and you would have been pissed.
And been, like, when I get upset, I hardly ever voice it.
You never voice it, but you like never get upset. Or maybe you do, you just don't ever talk about it. But like, he's a
It's
nine.
one.
Like,
It's like one quick comment. I will make one quick comment, and it'll just be like a sarcastic, like, "Why is there a whole chicken leg in the sink?" Like, we have trash cans, and you'll just kind of be like,
But now, days later, I'm able to hear about it. You should have told me about it now, days later, and just be like, "Hey, babe, so you remember when you put the box?" I'll be like, "Oh yeah," and be like, well, you didn't know this, but, and then we can laugh about it now, which is something we've realized that like in the moment, if you like address something, it's like an issue and there's feelings and heightened and everyone gets upset. But if you talk about it later,
It is
you can
so
laugh
dumb
about
later
it.
on.
You can laugh about it. Like, for example, Dan was leaving his closet light on. I literally felt like every single day. Just hear me out here. Like every single day. And I'm like, oh, I have to freaking keep turning his light off. Like I was getting upset. And I went to him and I was like, Daniel Matthews, can you please turn your light off? Like you leave it on all the time. He was like, I leave mine on. You leave yours on all the time. And I was like, what? He's like, you do. And I'm like, no, I don't. Sure enough, a few days later, I will walk out from the bathroom and I was like, oh, that's my light on. So I turned it off. So now we laugh about it. I will literally turn his on and be like, hey babe, you left your closet light on.
You turned mine on just to mess with me? I just tell you yours was on.
Because it is on all the time.
Well, but sometimes I'm like, your light's on.
Oh yeah, and it's not on.
And I'm like, you're like.
But now we laugh about it.
No, was it really? It wasn't on. It wasn't on. And I'm like, no.
And I just like come over and punch him. But now it's like funny.
But yeah, we turn it into something to joke about. But that also goes back to like, I saw her closet light on all the time. And it was just flip her closet light off for her.
Aw, thanks.
So you just flip it off.
Maybe that's why mine is always off.
Whereas you, on the other hand,
yeah,
you can't let it go. You got to say something.
It like eats at me.
Yeah. And so that's where, like before I was talking, there's always someone who's louder and they're going to voice everything. And it's not the end of the world.
No, but then there's times where sometimes you just have to repeat yourself a couple times and that's okay. Like with Scout's water, every 3 days his water thing needs to be filled up. I fill it up very often and I say, babe, this is something I would really love for you to fill up and to do. And he's like, I'll try to pay more close attention to it. Sure enough, I still fill it up.
But yeah, there's a certain level of, like, not everything has to be said, and I know you don't say everything, but the things that bug you,
yeah,
I'm like, I could just snap right back. She's so angry, and I could be like, you leave yours on too!
Yeah, but you don't.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
The light being left on, it's not even in the, like, while we're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's middle of the day.
Well, that's because I am in my boxers and a t-shirt and I haven't got my shorts out yet. So I walked to the bathroom and I'm coming back.
You're about to
but
come back in there.
We've now turned that into a joke of, babe, your light's on.
Yeah, you just laugh about
And sometimes it's multiple times. There's times where she'll be in the closet getting clothes and I'm like, babe, you left your light on. And
we just laugh about it.
Yeah, so it's like you need to fight well. And you also need to understand that the frustration that comes out in a moment isn't always because of you.
Yeah.
Like, you might have been the tipping point that made her say something or made him say something, but like, there's other factors. And so, if you truly believe that your spouse wants the best for you and loves you, then you can't take crazy offense to everything that they say. Because things are going to be said that aren't true. Just in the heat of the moment, emotions are high. Things are going to be said, and it's not actually how they feel. But
you have to remember too, you're on the same team. You know, yes, there's marriages who have issues that are unresolved, like you can't resolve. But generally, for a generally healthy marriage, you're on the same team. And like you said, there's so many factors that play into something that. He just gets the overflow of what I'm feeling, but really I'm stressed from work. The kids are driving me nuts. That like, that's what's coming out. It's not that I'm upset at him and that I'm, you know, mad at you and I hate you. It's that you're getting all of my emotions, and if you understand that, then you can perceive what I'm saying better. And same with him. If something's bothering him and something else went wrong and he's talking to me, it's not me, it's what he's walking through, and so then I can perceive it better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and if you really understand that about your spouse, that like they're not just angry at you all the time, and maybe you're to that point, and if that's the case, I would suggest counseling.
Yeah.
Like, counseling isn't bad.
Yeah.
It has a bad stigma, but like, it's healthy, and you need to be able to walk through this with a professional who can help you sort it out, instead of just being upset with each other. But in moments like that, to just be like, hey, we're gonna get to the root of it later. It doesn't have to be right now. It might be 10 minutes. Normally, if I just remove the kids from the situation of like, you're upset
overstimulated
about work, and then the kids have a million questions, and Scout's running around crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, if I can just remove all of the other things that might be stressing her out in this moment, she can figure her stuff out, and she'll probably be good in 5 or 10 minutes. And
that's pretty good, babe.
to just
That's accurate.
And I'm not. It sounds weird, like remove the kids from the situation.
No, but just it's overstimulating. You
yeah.
can't think and process with so much going on.
Yeah.
Like that's
and
just...
so to do that, and then later, if I have a concern of like, hey, you got way too upset at Scout for licking his leg while you were trying to work, like, I can bring that up. Again, in the moment, it's gonna have zero effect. It's just gonna make her mad at me.
Yeah.
And that's where sometimes time is the best thing. Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, doesn't matter. Just come back and deal with it at a different time.
Yeah.
Bring logic in after the emotion gets to a point where it allows it.
And remember you're on the same team, and that a marriage is a partnership, and it requires both of you. I heard this, it was from a podcast the other day. This lady was like, marriage isn't 50-50. There's times where I come home from work and I've only got 20% of energy to give, and he's gonna have to pick up the 80%. And she's like, we literally talk about it, and it's like, hey, in this moment I've got 20, and he'll be like, that's okay, I'll cover the 80. And I've always thought of it as like 50-50 or 100% 100. Like we both give our best, we both give 110%. No, because there are days where you're sick and you are physically weak and you cannot handle physical tasks, mental tasks, emotional tasks, because you are just so drained that you're like, babe, I literally have 10% to give. Then that tells him, whether it's roles in the house of cooking, cleaning, the kids, work, the dog, he knows that he has to cover the other 90 because I am not in the place to do it. Or vice versa. If you're like, I've got 40%, I've got so much with work I got to take care of, and I've got 40% I can give, whether that's to the kids, to the family, to you, then I know he's not all there. But there may be days where it's like, this is like today, I feel 100%.
Yeah.
Kids are with their grandma, with me, ma, hanging out, they're excited, they're having fun, we're like doing great, like, I feel like I can conquer the world. That there may be times where we are both 50-50 or 100-100, but I think communicating that today I've got a lot going on, I'm not gonna be able to handle whatever we're processing emotionally, mentally, or physically, that like, you know where each other is at, so you know before going into the day, so that you don't have mixed expectations. It's literally just a circle of communications, expectations, percent of effort, like roles. There's so much that plays into it that marriage takes work, but it's worth it.
And I will say, if somebody is always at 20% or always at 10%,
figure out why.
There's something underlying there.
Yeah.
And it might be work is too much. Or it might be they don't have an outlet. They don't have a hobby. They don't have something fun that they can look forward to every week. And everybody needs that. Like Sam, for 8 years of marriage, didn't have anything that she really did just to enjoy. And I was like, you have to do something. Like, you have to have something to look forward to, because otherwise this is it. And if you're upset with me, then your whole world's falling apart. Whereas like, if you have something else that you can go and do and have fun and enjoy. And so she's got a cooking club, and she's got a craft night.
Those have really
and she's got stuff where she has community, and she loves to host, and so she gets to do that on a monthly basis, like every other week, really. And then for me, I've got guys' night. Like, I hang out with the guys Thursday nights, we get together, and we do something. We sit around a fire, we go and go-kart, we sit in a hot tub, smoke a cigar, sit next to a lake and catfish. Like, there's something that we do, and it's something that I look forward to every week. And really, there was a study, I think, that just came out. I saw it a couple weeks ago. And they say guys really, just the way we're wired, need 2 outlets every week.
Oh, wow.
Like 2 full, solid blocks of time where we can just do something.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that's video games. And that's what, like, she's like, I am glad you don't play video games.
Yeah. And
I think when it gets abused, if it was like, hey, listen, I play in a league or whatever with my guys every Tuesday night, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like for me, I feel fulfilled if on Monday night I'm able to go and play basketball, and then Thursday night I get to hang out with the guys. Like, that's amazing.
Well, and guys have this need of recreation that's probably why you may need it more times than, or a guy may need it more times than a female. Whenever we were engaged, we read the book, His Needs, Her Needs. Such a good read. I recommend the husband reading it for a week, the wife reading it for a week, and then coming together the third week and really talking about it. But it talks about your needs and like your top 5 needs of physical needs, recreation, security, safety for women, and how to understand each other's needs. And as a man, that's what you need. And I always prioritize that. Like, we always get the question, or people always make comments that like, Dan hunts a lot. One, it's his job. When he hunts, he has stories to tell, and he does it for his podcast. Great. I'm excited for that. But also on a personal level, like, that's something that he enjoys. And I realize when he gets to go do something that he loves and enjoys, he comes back home so like appreciative of me. Babe, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for like taking care of the kids. Thank you for allowing me to go do this. You come back so helpful. He's like cleaning and organizing and like wiping stuff down. I'm like, bro, you can hunt whenever you want if this is how you come home. But for so many reasons I enjoy it. But if he didn't get that, think of how upset, miserable, like not happy he would be that one night of hunting, a couple hours of hunting, or a full day of hunting, or a weekend of hunting, like, and it just like, it refuels you. It like just gives you another step of excitement in life.
Well, I feel like when needs are met, and when needs are met, like the closeness, the relationship, the intimacy is there. I remember the one day you were in the bedroom, and you had mentioned to me multiple times that you wanted me to cook more. And I made chicken Alfredo.
Yeah.
And I looked up this whole recipe and made it from scratch. I even like cut the chicken at that angle.
It was grilled to perfection.
And she came out, and it was just like, you would have thought that I bought her the most beautiful luxury car she's ever wanted, and planned a Hawaiian vacation, and you know, like, you would have thought that I did so much, and I cooked a meal.
It was like, it meant so much to me though.
And immediately you were just like, I am so, you are
attracted.
so hot right now, like I just want to jump up. And I'm like, because I cooked some noodles and chicken? Okay, like this, I could get down with this. Doing things like that for your spouse is just an easy way to get closer together, but you have to know what they like, what they want, what they're expecting.
Well, and with that, like, roles is so important, and that's something that through the past 4 years, probably of our marriage, we've really focused on, because our life has completely shifted with roles, where 4 or 5 years ago, he was primary breadwinner, working out of the house 8 to 5. He was gone. I was taking care of everything inside the home. But since then it's shifted. With it being social media, I'm doing more online, sharing, editing, emails, that Dan has now, I mean, you still have your podcast and your trips and stuff, but he takes the kids to school in the morning, we both help them get ready. He does all the laundry, I do the dishes. Like, we really had to step back and write down our roles of cleaning, cooking, kids, tasks, work, like down to the detail of who's doing what, because if the house is a wreck, if the kids aren't taken care of, if people aren't fed, like, there's gonna be emotions and people are gonna get upset, and it's gonna be missed expectations. Like, if I don't have the time to do the laundry and the laundry's not done, I'm gonna get upset at him, but he has no clue why I'm upset at him, because that was never clearly communicated to him that he needs to do the laundry.
And then on the flip side, if it's just like busy, and I'm like, hey, is there any way you can throw it in?
Yeah.
It's like,
then I don't mind. I'll do it.
Yeah. So I don't
like if the dishes are ever not done, I don't like making you do that, because I'm like, that's my role. But you're always like open to helping. It's not saying you only do your role and no one else's. But
well, and I think that part of that is like not keeping score, which we've never done. Like, you just don't keep score of who goes out more, who has more fun, who spends more money. Like, when you do that, it just creates bitterness and animosity. And there's no reason for it. And so it's like, I did the dishes for you, so you have to do laundry now.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to solve anything. It's not going to help anything. And so, really, I think, at the end of the day, you just have to love the other person.
Yeah.
And like actually love them, not just say I love them, but like do things that show that you love them.
Yeah.
Don't say certain things because you love them. Do say other things because you love them. And if you can handle that, and if you can realize, hey, I suck at communicating, but I need to do it because it's been causing fights, and so like that is my way to show her love, is by communicating to her what I'm hoping so that we fight less.
Yeah.
Like there's a million different things, and there's a million books on what to do and not do in relationship and communication, but at the end of the day, like, love your spouse, do what you can, and work through things. And I mean, at the start of this, we were talking about fighting.
Yeah.
It's like, none of it is that big of a deal. Now, there are cases of like infidelity and all this other stuff that, I mean, that's a huge thing. Or abuse. Like, don't tolerate abuse ever.
Yeah.
But as far as these other fights, like, in the moment, it's the end of the world.
Yeah. But if you just step back and
Just
like
take a break.
perspective. But on the lines of, I mean, you said infidelity, there's at times other issues that you walk through that are out of your control. This world as a whole, like, there is temptation that comes on marriage. There is hardship. There's like, whether you believe it or not, there's like the forces of evil that are against your marriage. The enemy does not want your marriage to be successful. The enemy does not want your marriage to be healthy and for there to be commitment in it. And so there's things outside of your control that are going to happen that, again, you have to work together to walk through those things. Like, Dana and I oftentimes that, like, every few months, I want to check in with him and say, like, hey, how are you doing emotionally? Because you hear about these people who are silently struggling inside mentally, emotionally, and they don't talk about it, or they just push their feelings down and it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. And it's like, no, I want to know if he's feeling something that he either doesn't feel like he can talk to me about or is nervous to talk to me about. I want to create a space that he feels safe in to talk to me, like, you know what, actually I am struggling with this, and like we talk about it together rather than like getting upset at him or getting angry. It's like, no, I'd rather you tell me about it than me not know. But also, like, I want to be there to help you and to pray for you and encourage you. That I want to check in, like, how are you doing emotionally? Like, are you feeling fulfilled in life? Do you feel like your needs are met? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel like wanted, desired? I mean, that's like all terms probably for like a female, but like, I want to know, are your needs being met? Do you feel safe and secure in our marriage? And like the same for you. So, but also I want to know, like, is there anything you're struggling with? Because temptation wise, like, the reality is we're going to be tempted, whether it's someone that's talking to us, whether we see something, whether we hear something. Like, temptation is out there, but it's a matter of if you act on it. So I can't expect as a man that he's not going to be tempted, because he's wired a certain way. The Lord created him a certain way to be attracted to the opposite sex. And if he's online or out driving or seeing something, I'm not going to expect him to never be tempted, but I do expect him to never act on that. And so in talking, I always want to create a space where he feels safe to be like, you know what, the other day I was driving and saw a billboard and, you know, was like, saw something that I didn't want to see, but nothing happened from it. Or whatever, I heard a song or whatever and I started thinking about this, but I reframed my thinking. Like, I want to create a space where he feels comfortable to come and talk to me about it and not feel like he can't ever be open and honest with me. And not that I'm gonna like get upset at him, like, how dare you look at something or hear something. Well, if it's outside of your control, then you can't do anything about it. Yeah. And so I think that's really important that you just communicate that. And on my end, there's times where I'm lonely or I feel like I'm in a season of needing more affection and attention, where...
And that's where I can check in with you and be like, hey, are you good? Because on the same note that there might be like physical or visual things tempting for guys, it's the same thing with women, just on the emotional side of things. Yeah. Like, you're seeing all of these sweet things on The Bachelor or the which you don't really read romance novels. I don't read romance novels, but yes, books. There's like those types of things. And it's framing a false reality for women of like, this is how you should be treated. Yeah. This is what you want in a guy.
And if you're not, then you're in the wrong marriage. Or and that's not the case. It's just I need to communicate. One time I was like, babe, I just saw online that this husband brought his wife coffee and flowers. He left for work, but he came back to give her flowers. He's like, you don't know what just happened last night. You don't know if they got into an argument last night, and this was his way of apologizing. You're only seeing a small portion online of like, oh, my husband brought me coffee and flowers. Oh, well, my husband didn't do that to me, so he must love me. No, like, I need to communicate also, but then also you need to be...
But also, you didn't like flowers.
I didn't.
You never used to like flowers, and now you're like, I do.
I changed my mind.
But it's like,
yeah.
Had you not told me that, you would have never gotten flowers again. Because I would get you flowers, and you're like, flowers are so dumb, they just die.
Yeah.
Like, you literally just bring them here to die.
But I had to communicate, hey, remember 10 years ago I told you I don't like flowers? I've changed my mind, I do like flowers, and here's the flowers that I like. And really quickly on that note, I literally, on a notes page for my phone, I doubt you ever look at it, but I wrote down the 5 love languages, and I wrote down 3 to 5 examples of each. That way, if he's ever curious of how to fulfill my needs, he has it on his phone of what coffee I like, what stores I like to shop at, what I like to do for quality time. I want to go on a walk. I want to sit and like cuddle on the couch and drink hot chocolate. Like, he knows how to fulfill my needs. So if I'm ever feeling like I am just in a place of being lonely and needing attention and affection, now he knows at this point, if I say like, hey babe, I'm lonely, you know that's like keyword for I need to put in extra effort for a couple weeks or for a week or whatever until I'm at a place where I feel good.
Yeah.
Because that's reality, is like you're gonna have needs that come up that need to be met or that you weren't expecting or whatever. Or there may be a week where you're like, physically, you just need
something
5x more than you.
I'm really good at communicating. I'll be like, babe, I need something.
Yes, and on my end, I try every other day to like meet your needs. That you just want to make sure that like your spouse, their needs are met and that they're taken care of, and you should want that. Like, you should want for them to be taken care of and feel loved and feel appreciated and physically met, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's our little marriage talk.
Yeah. 11 years in, we don't know everything, but I feel like I'm very thankful of like where we're at and how we have gotten to this point of like walking through things, sharing our heart, being open and honest, you know, healing. That I'm very happy.
Shutting closet lights off.
Mm-hmm. And just not saying anything. I'm proud of you for that trash thing. You never said anything. Sorry about that. But now I will work on it.
That's just me.
Thank you for telling me. I will work on it.
I'm the quieter one in our relationship by a lot.
I'm not that loud. They're gonna think I'm like boisterous over here.
I love you. Every quiet man marries a loud woman, because when he ordered chicken strips and she brought him a chicken sandwich, he's not going to be the one to tell the waitress.
No. Like, ma'am, excuse me, that's actually the wrong thing.
We'll be at, final thing, we'll be at a restaurant and Sam will be like, hey, when the waitress comes back, like, just catch her. Like, and I never do, because I'm not that guy. To yell across the restaurant.
I'm really sorry. Do you mind? And I'm like, literally, you just say, hey, can I get some ketchup? He like takes so long to get to the point of like, hey, so
it's called manners.
No,
I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
I was a server though. I want you to just get to the point so I can go take her my other table.
Maybe she doesn't. Maybe he doesn't.
Okay, maybe not.
But yeah, I'm just like, oh hey, never mind.
Excuse me.
And Sam's like, hey, excuse me. And I'm like, is there a fire? Why are you yelling?
Oh my gosh.
Anyways,
thanks for tuning in. Hopefully us sharing from our experience was encouraging, insightful.
Nobody's perfect. That's the thing. Whatever you see, whatever you read, whatever you listen to, like, nobody's perfect, no matter how much it comes across that way. Everybody is either in a failing marriage or they are working on it hard all the time.
Yeah.
So I just think, like, take whatever advice applies to you, go with it, try to just be the best be the best that you can, and hopefully your spouse is doing the same thing.
Yeah. And my last piece of advice is, I mentioned this earlier, like, what you see online is, like, not always perfect. Like, just because you see him bring her coffee and flowers doesn't mean that, like, your marriage is not good because he doesn't do that or whatever. Again, you never know what people are walking through, except for I've seen a couple things where it's like the happiest couples online are the ones that are struggling the most. I don't think that's accurate either, because I'm like, well, I don't want someone to see us online and be like, oh, they're happy, that must mean they're going through something.
No.
We're great, and I'm very thankful for that. So that's not the case, but also if you see us online and you see Dan doing all these sweet and endearing things for me, or another guy doing sweet and endearing things for his wife, like, you never know what the night prior was, if they had an argument or disagreement, or like
had the most intimate time in bed. You just don't know.
You don't know.
You have no idea. So don't compare.
Yeah.
I'm not married to you because I don't want to be. So, like, you guys are together, we're together. Don't compare the two.
Yeah.
But hopefully you can learn from others. So
yeah, pour into your marriage, and it can be a really good thing.